Hey, I'm Tyler.
And I'm KC, and we're The Element. Today we're going to show you how to practice shooting a hunting bow.
We hunt nearly all year long and we practice nearly all year long. So let's go down here to the foam and talk about how to do it.
These bows work, but why do you need to practice shooting a hunting bow? Well, there's a lot of reasons, okay? Maybe you just got a brand new bow and you need to get used to that bow. Or possibly you want to shoot some target league stuff and you want to go out there and be competitive. You don't want to make a fool of yourself, right? And then also there's some more practical reasons why you'd practice, right?
Other reasons you might practice is to hunt, right? That's why you're here probably. We're going to be better at hunting. So I think of 4 E's in this particular situation. There's the ethical side of things, there's the efficient, there's the effective side of things, and then there's also the element. So those are the 4 E's of why you would practice hunting with your hunting bow.
Some things about your bow that you're going to need to make sure of to practice is you're going to need to make sure all your arrows are the same, because you want similar results. You don't want to have extra factors going in there as to why the arrows are hitting different places, right? So they need to be the same length, same spine, same weight, all of that. And then you need to make sure that at least at the beginning you're using something called a field point, right? So this thing is not what you would hunt with, but it's what you would practice with. It's easier on a target, it's less dangerous, and it flies really, really, really well.
So now that you're ready, you've probably visited your pro shop, you got them to tune your bow out and everything. Now it's your turn to go home and practice these things. So one of the things you got to think about right off the bat is, am I going to practice in a safe direction? And you want to make sure that there's no houses, no livestock, people, no common traffic of any sort back behind your target, right? Because you don't want to ruin any property or any lives of anything. These are designed to kill things. The other thing we're thinking here is these are also designed to put an arrow through a target, which in a hunting scenario, that's where you want it to go through, right? But in a practice scenario, you want it to be stopped. So you need a high quality foam target. You can get them at a decent price, basically anywhere there's outdoor stuff. This one behind us I think is a Morel, which I won. But the reason that we're using something like that is to make sure that our arrow stops when it hits the target and therefore doesn't damage anything behind us.
We're gonna do some shooting, and one thing that you need to consider when you first start is you need to start short. We're pretty experienced at this, so 20 yards for us is kind of a really, really comfortable distance. Do not feel bad if you feel like that's a long ways, and you need to start at 10 yards or even less to get used to shooting this bow, because it's always good to be safe and it's always good to establish some confidence whenever you're shooting your bow, as opposed to missing, right? Missing is bad for your confidence, so we want to hit the target. Now, Tyler's gonna do a little shooting. We're gonna talk a little bit about form. If you look, Tyler has a really good anchor point here.
Basically, I feel the corner of my jaw and I'm feeling this right thumb. I'm feeling the joint of that thumb right behind that. And then I feel like my index knuckle touching my ear, right where the bottom of my ear hole kind of starts. I've also got a fletching. My fletchings are all set to be the same as they leave the bow. So I'm feeling a fletching on my bottom lip. I'm feeling the string coming across my nose, the tip of my nose, and then coming to the corner of my mouth, as you can see. Okay. And I know that when those line up, every shot will be very similar to the last shot, basically.
So what about your aiming process here?
Now, a lot of guys have trouble coming up. So most guys like to start from above the target and come down to it and relax. And then I'm just making sure that as I'm stabilized there on that target, I'm pulling a slow trigger pull, basically. Slow and smooth. Bullseye. Another thing that I'm looking at when I look through this and I'm aiming at my target is you're looking through this Peep Site. For people who don't know, it's a round dot and basically kind of blocks out everything peripheral for you. A lot of times you want to line this up within the Peep Site, so you're basically making a circle within a circle. There's also a level in most sites that you can look at to make sure that you are level. That way all your axes are where they're supposed to be.
So Tyler and I have 2 different rest types. I have a limb driven rest,
and mine is a fall away.
Okay, so they act a little differently pre-shot, but they're pretty much the same thing post-shot. They get out of the way whenever you shoot, right? So when you go to knock the bow, you want to make sure that you don't put any twist on the string. You just pull that knock straight back into your string. That way there's no extra influence there, right? From there, you're going to take your release, put it in this thing called a D-loop, which is like an extra string on your string so that you don't wear out your string. And from there, we're going to shoot some arrows.
Shoot the arrows.
Tyler, how many arrows do you like to shoot?
At a time?
Mm-hmm.
I usually will get
Just
3 or
one?
4.
In a target sequence before you go down and pull arrows, how many do you like to shoot?
3 to 5 usually.
3 to 5?
Yep.
A lot of times I like to shoot 1 arrow and then go down and get it because it helps me focus. It's also a lot like hunting because you're only shooting 1 arrow and you get a little bit more exercise. But if you're trying to get a volume of arrows shot, 3 to 5 is a very common number. I would say 3 is kind of my top end. I don't really like to shoot more than that because then the target gets kind of crowded. Let's go ahead and just see who can do better here.
Okay.
So what you would do here is shoot 1 to 5 arrows depending on who you are. I mean, you might even shoot 6. My quiver only holds 5, so I probably wouldn't shoot that many. You don't shoot with a quiver. Where are your arrows when you're practicing normally?
On my tailgate usually.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is that where they're at today?
That's where they're at today.
Perfect,
Yep.
man. At 20 yards, we've got a couple targets down there. There's 6 of them to be exact. When there's 2 guys, it's good to go ahead and establish which target you're shooting at. I'm gonna shoot middle right.
All right, I'll shoot middle left. Whoa!
I hit exactly where I was aiming. That makes me feel real good. I like to pick a different specific spot to aim every time because especially at these closer distances, you can end up hitting the same spot twice. And
Yep.
Robin Hoods, as they call it, where you hit the arrow that you just shot, is cool like once or twice, but then sooner or later,
It starts to add up in your bank account.
that's right, that's right. So I'm gonna shoot top right.
Okay, I'll shoot top left. I'll let you shoot first this time.
Okay, so while I'm shooting here, I'm doing a couple things. I'm not touching my trigger until I'm ready to go. I find my anchor point, I make sure my bubble is level, and then I acquire my target with my pin. And I also am making sure my grip is good. You don't want to add too much extra influence with your grip. Actually, you don't want to add any extra influence with your grip. You want the bow to pretty much just be pressing against your hand and not be gripping at all.
Yeah, another thing I like to talk about or think about, or I would like to talk about, is that I go up above the target when I'm practicing a lot of times, just because it's easier to draw the bow kind of down as you come through. But in a hunting situation, which is what we're practicing for right now, you typically want to draw straight through the bow. There's a lot less movement that is perceived by deer or animals in a straight back movement as opposed to a up, down, back kind of movement. So it would look something like this. Straight back, fairly slow, get it back. You need a poundage that you can pull like that.
I'm gonna shoot bottom right for my 3rd and final arrow, and it might look sometimes like you're struggling to draw your bow back if you're doing this right. But don't worry about what other people perceive as you doing. You know what a comfortable weight is for you. But I'm gonna show you kind of a bad thing to do, okay? A bad thing to do is jerk that thing back, because that's not a hunting situation, right? A good draw is going to be just what Tyler did. Slow and smooth, because that's not perceived by animals very well. So just slowly draw it back, okay? You're not struggling, you're just in control. All right, let's go get them. Pretty good shots.
Of course, we put them back into the holes in the good spots, you know. So,
of course, you always want to aim better. And one of the things that you probably want to focus on once you get sufficient at this is actually a big thing to aim at, right? When you aim at a deer, do you aim at a 2-inch circle like this?
no, because it's hard to see a circle on a deer, right?
That's right. There's not many circles on a
No,
deer.
there's not. There are a few things that you can look at. There's different colorations in a deer. There's a crease behind the arm that you can see sometimes. And once you really start to dial in what the anatomy of a deer looks like, you can look up stuff like that online. There is a great triangle. You can see muscular structures, bone structures within the shoulder that help you to figure out where to aim. And you want to aim small. I typically have heard, at least from my dad, and think about it a similar way, but pick a hair, pick a spot that is very small, because the saying goes, it's very cliche, but it's aim small, miss small. So in other words, if you aim at a very small area and you miss it by an inch, it's not that big of a deal. If you aim at the chest of a deer and miss it by an inch, you hadn't hit the animal. So
yeah,
aim small, miss small, as they say.
And that's where, like, I don't know, if I aim at this circle, I can definitely hit it. But if I start aiming at one of these little red dots within the circle and I miss it by an inch, I know that I didn't do as good as I possibly could have.
Yeah.
And it really helps you to start dialing it in. And whenever you are able to hit stuff like that, it gives you a ton of confidence whenever you're in a tree trying to shoot a deer.
So as you get comfortable with a shorter distance, you can actually move it back, or move the target back, or move yourself back, gain some distance, and practice more detailed fine shooting.
That's right, and that's actually what I want to talk about here is practicing for hunting. You need to take practical shots, right? I've never ranged a deer at 20 yards. I've ranged them at 21, 22, or 18, or whatever, but hardly ever is it on an even number. So it'd be good to maybe practice like 27 yards, something that's not on that 5-yard increment, so you're actually practicing for real world hunting scenarios.
Yeah, it's also good to practice at elevation. So a lot of people hunt from a tree stand. Well, let's practice that way as well. We hunt out of saddles, so practicing out of your saddle, getting comfortable shooting that way is also a good idea.
Yeah. And I don't shoot deer with field points like this, right? I shoot deer with broadheads. So I like to practice with a broadhead. That way I know where this thing's gonna hit whenever I'm shooting at an animal.
You've been practicing all summer, things are getting really just hot and monotonous, and you go, man, this isn't that fun anymore. Make a fun scenario, have a friend over, y'all challenge each other, or put yourself in a position where you imagine shooting a deer like you have before, or like you hope to do in the future. So one of those fun scenarios is actually having your buddy call the target for you. So when it's about acquiring the target. That's what you're actually trying to learn in the situation. You draw your bow back, your buddy goes top left, and that's where you got to put it. And you maybe give yourself a time limit too, 5 seconds or something like that. That's a way that you can break up the monotony and also give yourself a good practice example of a deer moving through the woods.
One of the things that people hardly ever practice, and I think is super important, is well, when you're out here shooting at this target, a lot of times what you always get to do is draw your bow back and shoot the arrow. But in a real world hunting scenario, sometimes you draw your bow back on a deer and then he moves and you have to actually let your bow down. It is not that easy, and it's something that you definitely need to practice if you plan on hunting deer. Last year in Kansas, you shot a giant public land buck at 50 yards from your booty.
Spooky Williams.
This year, he's 10 inches bigger and 10 yards further.
Oh no.
Can you do it?
Good thing I've been practicing this summer. Oh, he's just looking away. Is that dead nuts?
I can't really tell. Let's go see. I think it might be. Oh!
Hard shot. Now we're practicing for hunting, so let's put ourselves in those scenarios. Personally, as you hunt more and more, these experiences that you go through can help you prepare. So take accountability in that and figure out what you need to practice, right? What do you struggle with? What might you encounter that is a tough situation even if you have overcome it before? It could be practicing in the yard on a cool day with camo on. You know, you want to have a sleeve on, you want to practice in a glove if that's what you shoot in the stand. So think about those things as well.
And also, don't be afraid to take breaks. This isn't hard work and made to be hard. It's made to be enjoyable, and it also is made to be helpful. If you're shooting bad one day, don't try to shoot through it, because that's where you can develop things like target panic and develop bad habits like punching the trigger or gripping the bow too hard. And you don't want practice to be counterproductive. You want it to be what?
Yeah, fun.
Fun!
Gotta have fun,
That's
man.
right.
That's the ultimate goal with this. Archery is fun. Shooting deer with a bow and being up close to them, that is so much fun. I mean, if you haven't done it, I can't explain it, but it's one of the coolest things you will do. You will start shaking out of your boots in that tree stand or on the ground, wherever you're at. So make sure you're having fun. Also, you can check out a couple of videos that might help you if you're interested in what broadhead you might shoot, or even just how to shoot a bow.
So remember, this is your element.
Live in it.